Prologue. The Red Moon Remembers. The moon did not always burn red. There was a time, before war, before broken thrones, when the sky watched in silence and did not interfere in the affairs of wolves. But on the night Hermes Pack's future was born, the moon bled. Old wolves would later argue over what it meant. Some said it was an omen of betrayal. Others said it was the world holding its breath. Only one truth endured. Nothing that followed was an accident. 2 children were born beneath that red light, twin daughters, alpha-blooded, strong enough to make the stones hum beneath the nursery floor. They cried as all newborns do, but their cries carried farther, through walls, through magic, through blood. And the pack listened. The Alpha King listened. And somewhere above them, standing alone on cold stone, their mother listened too. Queen Kunti did not weep. She did not tremble. She did not rush to the nursery like the songs promised she would. Instead, she watched the moon and understood something no one had ever taught her how to say. Power does not only rule, it consumes. It sharpens children into weapons, turns love into ownership, turns inheritance into chains. Kunti had worn the crown long enough to know the cost, and she refused to pay it with her daughters. So while the pack celebrated, while the twins screamed for a warmth they did not understand, the queen made a choice that would split the world open. She did not go to them. She walked away. History would call her a monster. The pack would call her traitor. Her children would grow up with a wound no blade could carve. But the moon remembered something else. That on the same night a queen chose exile, fate began looking for someone who would stay. A girl with no wolf, no name that mattered, no place in the world she was born into. And when the wolves finally found her, they would choose her. The Wolves Who Chose Lily. Chapter 1. The Abandonment. The Red Moon over Hermes Pack. The moon did not always burn red. Old wolves would later swear they had never seen such a color over Hermes Pack. Not in war, not in famine, not even during the last great purge of the border clans. The sky that night seemed bruised, as though the world itself had been struck too hard and was bleeding light. Queen Kunti stood at the balcony of the Alpha King's stronghold and watched the moon climb. Below her, Hermes Pack slept in ignorance. Torches guttered along the outer walls. Guards paced in disciplined silence. From the western wing came the muted sound of celebration. Wine, laughter, the low hum of relief that followed a successful birth. Twin heirs, healthy, female, alpha-blooded. Everything the pack demanded. Kunti rested her hands on the cold stone railing. They were steady. That, more than anything, frightened her. She had expected to shake, to weep, to feel the pull that every she-wolf spoke of in hushed, reverent tones. The bond that tore open the chest and rewrote the soul. Instead, she felt clarity. Sharp, merciless, final. Behind her, the stronghold breathed. Power lingered in its halls, old and heavy, soaked into the bones of the place. This was a seat of dominance that had devoured alpha mates before her. She had known that when she agreed to wear the queen's mark. She had believed herself strong enough to survive it. She had been wrong. A soft sound drifted through the open doors. Crying, Not one voice. Two. Kunti closed her eyes. They had her eyes, the midwife had whispered. The same dark silver, rare even among alphas. The mark of leaders, of conquerors, of weapons. Her jaw tightened. Not them, she murmured to the moon. I will not let Hermes turn them into this. Footsteps echoed behind her. She did not turn. My queen? A maid said cautiously. The Alpha King asks if you will come to the nursery. Of course he did. He would be standing there already measuring their futures. Alliances, dominance, bloodlines. Already deciding how to shape them into symbols the pack could kneel to and fear. I will come, Kunti said. But not yet. The maid hesitated. They are crying again. Kunti's fingers curled against the stone. They will stop, she said. And then, before doubt could creep back in, before instinct could betray her resolve, she turned from the balcony, not toward the nursery, but toward the eastern corridor, toward the passage only queens were taught to use, toward the path that led beyond Hermes Pack territory, and into exile. Chapter 2. The nursery was awash in silver and white. Carved cradles bore the sigil of Hermes Pack, fang and crescent entwined. Moonstones were embedded into the walls, their glow meant to soothe newborn wolves. Protective runes hummed beneath the floor, layered over generations of alpha heirs. None of it worked. Princess Asha screamed until her tiny lungs trembled. Princess Naira screamed until the sound turned raw and broken. The cries cut through stone, through magic, through blood. Nursemaids rotated in shifts, sweat-soaked and shaking. Healers tried everything: herbal tonics, calming chants, omega pheromones strong enough to make grown wolves dizzy. Nothing eased the twins. They reject us, one healer whispered, pale. They reject everyone. The Alpha King stood near the far wall, arms crossed, presence bending the air. Alpha dominance rolled off him in silent waves. They are newborns, he said coldly. They do not reject. Asha's screams spiked, sharp as glass. The Alpha King's jaw flexed. They respond to no scent, a healer said carefully. Not even yours, my king. That was when the first crack appeared. Not grief. Rage. A marble column shattered under the Alpha King's fist. The sound thundered through the stronghold. Find the cause, he roared, or I will find replacements for you. By dawn, Hermes Pack was in turmoil, and the queen was gone. Kunti did not run. She walked, past the outer gates, past the sacred boundary stones, past the last watchtower where loyal wolves would have dropped to one knee if they had seen her. She wore no crown, no silk, only travel leathers and a blade strapped across her back. The cries followed her, or perhaps they lived only in her head. She stopped once, just once, on a ridge overlooking the stronghold. From here, Hermes Pack looked eternal, unshakable. A lie. Kunti pressed a hand to her chest. I am doing this for you, she whispered. One day you will understand. The moon did not answer. She turned away. Chapter 3. The Wolfless Child. Lily scrubbed blood from stone floors while Hermes' pack unraveled. She worked silently, head bowed, dark hair tied back with a fraying ribbon. She had learned early that attention was dangerous. Better to be invisible. A moving shadow. A pair of hands. At 12, she was small for her age. Too thin. Too quiet. And still wolfless. In Hermes' pack, even servants shifted young. Even orphans. By 10, a wolf should have stirred. Lily had nothing. They called her empty. They called her unclaimed. She did not argue. That night, as she hauled water from the well, the screaming reached her. It stopped her cold. Not fear. Recognition. Something in her chest twisted, sharp and sudden. She turned toward the eastern tower without knowing why. As she passed the corridor outside the royal nursery, the sound shifted. Just slightly. Inside, a healer stiffened. "Did you feel that?" she whispered. The Alpha King lifted his head slowly. "Who passed the door?" Far below, a wolfless girl stood trembling, water spilling from her hands, unaware that Hermes' pack had just found its breaking point. By the third night, the Alpha King was out of patience. "There is one more," a healer said at last. "A servant child. Wolfless. A forbidden thing. A desperate thing." The Alpha King looked at his daughters, shaking, exhausted, screaming. "Bring her," he said. And fate moved. Lily thought she was being punished. That was the only explanation that made sense as 2 guards appeared beside her at dawn, their expressions unreadable, their hands resting too close to their blades. "You are to come with us," one said. Her stomach tightened. She did not ask why. In Hermes' pack, questions were a luxury servants did not survive. She wiped her hands on her skirt, nodded once, and followed. The corridors changed as they climbed higher. Stone smoother, air warmer, scented with herbs and milk and magic. Lily had never been this far into the stronghold before. The walls themselves seemed to watch her. When the doors to the nursery opened, the sound hit her like a blow. Screaming. Not loud. Exhausted. Frayed. The kind of sound that came from something too small to understand why the world hurt. Lily froze. Her chest tightened so sharply she nearly gasped. Inside, chaos held its breath. Healers lined the walls, eyes rimmed red. Nursemaids stood with stiff backs and trembling hands. At the center of it all stood the Alpha King. He turned when Lily entered. His gaze landed on her like a weight. This was the wolf whose presence made grown warriors bow. The Alpha who ruled Hermes' pack through strength alone. Lily's knees wanted to buckle. "That is her?" he asked. "Yes, my king," the healer said quietly. Lily dropped to her knees, forehead pressed to the stone. "I'm sorry," she whispered automatically. "I didn't mean to." "Look up," the Alpha King commanded. She obeyed. And the moment her eyes lifted, the screaming changed. Not stopped. Changed. Princess Asha's cry broke into hiccuping breaths. Princess Naira's wail softened, turning uncertain, searching. Every wolf in the room felt it. A ripple passed through the air, subtle but unmistakable. The Alpha King's eyes narrowed. "Stand," he said. Lily rose on shaking legs. "Step forward." She took one step. The cries weakened. Another. Naira's screaming cut off entirely. Asha whimpered once, then fell silent. The nursery went deathly still. "I didn't do anything," Lily whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "I swear." "Pick them up," the healer said urgently. Lily stared at her. I'm not allowed." "You are now." The Alpha King did not contradict her. Lily approached the nearest cradle as though walking toward an execution block. The twins lay red-faced and trembling, eyes bright and unfocused, tiny chests fluttering with shallow breaths. She hesitated. Then carefully, so carefully, she slid her hands beneath Princess Asha. The moment she lifted her, something settled. Asha's fingers curled into Lily's rough dress, clutching as though afraid to be dropped back into the noise. Her breathing slowed. Her head tucked instinctively beneath Lily's chin. Lily sucked in a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Then she reached for Naira. The second Lily held them both, the change completed. Silence. Not the tense, waiting kind, but deep, complete calm. Naira's eyes slid shut. Asha sighed. A low vibration hummed through the room, felt more than heard. Old wolves stiffened, instincts screaming that something ancient had just stirred. The healer staggered back. "No," she breathed. "That's not possible." The Alpha King took a single step forward. "What are you?" he demanded. Lily's throat tightened. "No one," she said. "I'm no one." The twins slept against her heartbeat, utterly unafraid. Word spread through the stronghold before sunset. A wolfless servant had touched the Alpha heirs. A bond had formed. Not blood-bound, not scent-bound. Something else. The council was summoned that night. Elders gathered beneath the great hall's stone ribs, their expressions grim. "This is heresy," one snapped. "An empty child holding Alpha-born wolves? It defies law." "It defies nature," another agreed. "She should be removed," a third said coldly. "Before the bond deepens." The Alpha King listened in silence. "You all saw it," the healer said, voice shaking. "They will not eat without her. They will not sleep. When she leaves, the screaming returns." "As it should," a noble growled. "Pain strengthens heirs." The Alpha King's eyes flashed. "Pain breaks children," he said. Silence fell. "The girl stays," he continued, "until I decide otherwise." "Then bind her," an elder insisted. "Brand her. Control her." "No." The single word carried finality. Outside the council chamber, Lily sat on the nursery floor with the twins curled against her sides, unaware that her life had already been spared and condemned in the same breath. Keeper of the Heirs. Lily did not return to the servant quarters. A small room was prepared beside the nursery. It was plain, stone walls, a narrow bed, but it was closer to the twins than she had ever been allowed to be to anything that mattered. They named her role carefully. Not nurse, not guardian. The twins accepted no one else. When Lily left the room, Asha's distress rose immediately. Naira growled, a sound far too deep for a child so small. When Lily returned, calm followed. Day by day, Lily learned them. Asha was observant, quiet even as an infant. Her eyes followed movement, tracked sound, remembered faces. Naira was fire. She kicked, snarled, demanded contact, and reacted violently to perceived threats, even healer hands that lingered too long. At night, Lily hummed. She did not know where the tune came from. It surfaced on instinct, a low, steady melody that wrapped around the twins like warmth. Their eyes glowed faint silver when she sang. The healer watched from the shadows, fear etched into her face. This bond is deepening, she warned the Alpha King. Too deep. What happens if we break it? He asked. The healer swallowed. They may not survive it. The pack did not accept Lily. Servants whispered curses when she passed. She's a parasite. She's using magic. She'll destroy them. One night, Lily found blood smeared across her door. Someone's warning, crude and unmistakable. Her hands shook as she scrubbed it away. She did not tell the Alpha King. She did not want him to reconsider. Instead, she clung to the twins and whispered promises she wasn't sure she could keep. I'm here, she told them. I won't leave. Naira pressed her forehead to Lily's chest. Asha watched the door, already learning the shape of danger. The first true test came months later. A visiting alpha challenged the bond openly. This is weakness, he sneered. Your heirs bow to a servant. He reached for Naira without warning. The reaction was instant. The temperature in the room dropped. A pressure slammed outward, knocking the alpha backward. Naira snarled, deep, resonant. Not a child's sound at all. Asha's eyes flashed. Lily felt it then. Something rising through her, fierce and protective, and not hers alone. Don't, she said quietly. The visiting alpha stared at her and Co., shaken. The Alpha King ended the visit immediately. That night, he stood outside the nursery and listened to Lily sing. For the first time since the Queen fled, his hands trembled. Far from Hermes' pack, Queen Kunti sharpened her blade. Rogues gathered around her fire, broken packs, exiles, wolves who had nothing left to lose. They will call me monster, she told them. They will say I abandoned my children. The firelight flickered across her face. But they will not own them. A scout arrived breathless. The twins live, he said, strong, bound to a servant. Kunti's grip tightened. A servant? Yes, wolfless. Something unreadable crossed her face. Good, she said at last. She did not know why. Chapter 4. A Bond That Could Not Be Named. Back in the nursery, Lily lay awake with the twins curled against her. Fear gnawed at her. She had been unwanted her whole life. Now, she was necessary. And necessity was fragile. As Asha slept, Naira's hand tightened in Lily's sleeve. The bond pulsed, steady, unbreakable. Outside, Hermes Pack shifted uneasily, sensing a future that no longer obeyed old rules. And somewhere in the dark, a war began to breathe. Chapter 5. Beyond the Boundary Stones. Exile stripped names first. Queen Kunti learned that within the first week. Beyond the boundary stones of Hermes Pack, no one called her queen. No one bowed. No one cared about the marks once carved into her skin or the blood she carried. Out here, survival mattered more than titles. The land itself was harsher, rocky hills and broken forests where packs had once lived and died. The air smelled of iron and old smoke. This was territory claimed and abandoned too many times to remember. Kunti welcomed it. Pain kept her focused. At night, when the fires burned low and the wolves slept, she lay awake and stared at the stars. She forced herself not to imagine the nursery, not to remember the weight of her daughters inside her, the way they had shifted before they were born, strong, impatient, powerful. She did not allow herself to remember their cries. That was the rule. If she broke it, she would turn back. And turning back would doom them all. The rogues came cautiously at first. A lone wolf with a scarred muzzle and no pack scent. A pair of sisters cast out after refusing a forced bond. A former beta whose alpha had sold his pups for alliance. They came because Kunti did not flinch when she saw what they had become. She trained with them at dawn, blade flashing, wolf roaring beneath her skin. She fought harder than any of them, not because she needed to prove herself, but because rage demanded release. Word spread, not of a queen, of a wolf who had walked away from power and lived. That mattered. "You could have stayed," one rogue said one night as they shared meat around the fire. "Most would." Kunti did not answer immediately. "I did stay," she said at last. "Long enough to see what the throne would make of my children." The fire cracked. Sparks rose into the dark. "I will not let Hermes Pack turn them into weapons." As the group grew, so did its purpose. Kunti listened more than she spoke. She learned where the pack laws had broken wolves instead of protecting them. She learned how alphas justified cruelty with tradition, how councils hid fear behind ritual. By the second month, they stopped asking if she would lead. They started asking when she would march. "You speak of tearing down the throne," a former pack strategist said carefully. "But what replaces it?" Kunti met his gaze. "Choice," she said. "Not bloodline, not dominance. Choice." Some wolves murmured approval. Others looked uneasy. "You cannot unmake the world," the strategist warned. Kunti smiled without humor. "Watch me try." There were moments, quiet, treacherous moments, when doubt slipped through her defenses. A lull between battles, a child's laugh from a distant camp, the sight of a servant girl brushing a pup's hair by the fire. Kunti's chest would tighten without warning. She dreamed then, not of the throne, of hands clutching fabric, of warmth, of a sound like humming. She woke snarling, claws sunk into earth, breath ragged. "No," she whispered into the dark. "This is the only way." If she returned too soon, Hermes Pack would tighten its grip. The Alpha King would raise their daughters as symbols, sharpen them into blades, loyal to the pack above all else. Better they grow without her. Better they hate her. Hatred was survivable. Chains were not. Chapter 6. Rumors from Home. The scout arrived at dusk, thin and fast, smelling of fear and long travel. "They are strong," he reported. "Too strong for their age." Kunti nodded once. "And the Alpha King?" "Still rules, but the pack whispers." Kunti stilled. "Whispers of what?" The scout hesitated. "The heirs do not obey him. They obey a servant girl." Silence fell over the camp. "A servant?" Kunti repeated. Yes, wolfless. A child. Something sharp flickered through Kunti's chest. A threat, she thought at first. Then, unexpectedly, relief. A wolfless girl could not challenge the throne, could not claim the twins for herself, could not turn them into political tools. Or so Kunti told herself. Good, she said again, firmer this time. That means they are not alone. The scout frowned but did not argue. That night, Kunti sharpened her blade until the edge sang. The battles began small. Border skirmishes, supply raids, breaking slaver routes disguised as trade paths. Every victory added wolves to her banner. Kunti was ruthless. She did not apologize for it. Mercy was offered only when it weakened Hermes Pack's hold, when it strengthened those who had been crushed beneath its rules. She is becoming dangerous, neighboring alphas warned. They were right. By the time the first snow fell, Kunti commanded an army, not loyal to her blood, loyal to her vision. They painted no sigil on their shields, only scars. Power changed the way wolves looked at her. Some saw salvation, others saw fear. Kunti accepted both. But when she stood alone, when the fires burned low and the camp slept, she pressed her palm against her chest and wondered what her daughters smelled like now. Milk? Smoke? Something else? She wondered if they still cried, if they remembered her. She wondered once what it would mean if they did not. The thought cut deeper than any blade. She buried it. The final report came at dawn. The airs have shifted, the scout said, breathless. Early, massive wolves. They answer to the girl. The camp erupted in murmurs. That is impossible. That's dangerous. That changes everything. Kunti closed her eyes. So the pack had already begun forging them. Or perhaps, she thought bitterly, someone else had claimed what she left behind. We march, she said. The camp fell silent. On Hermes Pack, she continued. On the throne. On the laws that bind children before they can choose. A pause. And the heirs? Someone asked. Kunti opened her eyes. Her voice did not waver. They will be freed, she said. Even if they never forgive me. The queen who walked back toward fire. As the army gathered, Kunti stood alone on a ridge, staring toward the distant lands of Hermes Pack. The red moon rose again. An old sign. She inhaled deeply. I am doing this for you, she whispered into the wind. Even if you never believe it. Far away, in a nursery built of stone and silence, 2 young wolves slept curled around a girl who hummed softly in the dark. And the distance between mother and daughters began to close. Not through love, but through war. From here, we move into the twins' childhood, Lily's quiet transformation, and the cracks forming in Hermes Pack itself. Continue to Act 4. Growing Wolves. We continue. This act is where time does the work, and consequences begin to surface. The shape of years. Time did not move gently through Hermes Pack. It pressed. It weighed. It shaped. The twins grew faster than they should have. By 5, Princess Asha spoke with careful precision, her words measured, her eyes always observing. She listened more than she talked, memorizing tone and silence with equal care. Princess Naira was her opposite, loud, impulsive, fiercely physical. She climbed stone walls meant for grown wolves, challenged older pups twice her size, and laughed when she bled. Both of them slept curled against Lily. Always Lily. At night, when the stronghold quieted, they flanked her like sentinels. Asha's hand resting lightly on Lily's arm, Naira's leg thrown possessively across her waist. If Lily stirred, they stirred. If she woke, they woke. The bond had not faded. It had deepened. And Hermes Pack felt it. Lily grew, but not the way the twins did. She remained slight, her body refusing the strength that should have come with age. At 16, she still had no wolf, no shift, no awakening. But something else had taken root in her. Her presence carried weight now. Servants stepped aside instinctively when she passed. Warriors lowered their voices. Even betas hesitated before challenging her decisions when the twins were involved. She wore no rank. She needed none. "She smells like them," one guard muttered once. "Like alpha blood." That was impossible. And yet, Lily learned to read the pack as she read the twins. Tension in posture, fear in scent, danger in silence. She learned which elders would push boundaries and which would retreat when met with calm resistance. She learned how to stand her ground without raising her voice.